You know what's really cool about writing a memoir is being able to answer questions that people may have after they've read it. It opens up conversations. It lets people see into your life, and then they come to you and say, I have some more questions for you. And that's really neat because when you have a couple hundred pages, there is only so much you can put in there. But when you have a lifetime of experience and things that you've gone through that you can share with the world, you can't get it all on paper. And so when people come to me and ask me questions, it's one of the most gratifying things I've found to date about writing a memoir. With that being said, I wanted to answer a couple of questions that I already typed out, and they may not fall word for word with what I wrote, and that's a good thing, because when you're asked a question, you can type it out. Now it's set in print, and it's there for the long haul. But when you're asked a question in person and you can speak, you can think about things. You can draw back from memory and go, oh yeah, and throw in the side story and a few other things. So I'm gonna keep it to the point. I'm not gonna go too far on side stories, which I do have a tendency to do, but that's a whole other story. So question number one, do you ever keep in contact with the families you assist? You know, when I was a younger firefighter, I wanted to follow up and see how people did, but as I started to mature and grow, I started to realize that my job wasn't to find out how people were doing. My job was to show up and put all my time, energy, and effort in to making whatever critical situation they were in better. And when I got to new people, sometimes got to know people, you bond with them. And when you bond with people, sometimes there's a level of, quote, intimacy, meaning I'm really caring for you and I want to know more about you. But as a rescuer, you try to keep it at this even keel that when you go to a patient, there are a series of events. I know that sounds heartless, but showing up as a stone cold lifesaver and loving on them where they are by providing emergency care for them is what it's all about. So when you follow up with a patient, sometimes you get that, I want to know what happened to them. And then it carries on to the next call and you want to know what happened to them and know what happened to them. And it become a burden. So instead of following up with people, what I would always do is rethink the scene and think about how I could have done something better, how I could have approached it differently, and on the next call, take that with me. So following up on a patient that we helped, no, but following up mentally about how I could prepare better for the next emergency I went to, that was kind of my way of following up on a call. All right, how did working 24-hour shifts affect your life? Were there positive and negative impacts? You know, 24 hours at a time in a firehouse is really incredible because you live in a community with other firefighters. You get to learn people of all backgrounds, all races, all different ethnicities. And when they bring that into the firehouse and bring it to the table and you actually get to learn people, it's a true blessing. It's such a blessing. So working 24 hours, living together is really cool, but it is trying at times. When you're on your second fire of the shift or your 20th medical and you're just doing everything in your power to stay awake, it can be tough. So on your 2 days off, you always want to spend some time recuperating. But unfortunately with firefighters and all the toxins that they inhale on fires and stuff that they absorb, they never get the rest that they need to fully recuperate between shifts. And that's why so many people, including myself, had to end my career early. So working 24-hour shifts was really cool. It was awesome. You got to have the camaraderie in the firehouse, but obviously your home life, when you're away for 24 hours, there's suffering there. Plus the effects that had on your body of constantly being in catch-up of trying to repair yourself through sleep was the rough part about it. How hot does it get inside your firefighter suit? First off, we don't wear suits. Suits and ties, I think those guys and gals, they work in office buildings. We wear what's called turnout coats. So turnout coat and pants, helmet, bottle, it gets amazingly hot in there. Because not only does it keep the heat from the surrounding environment that you're in coming in, it doesn't let your internal heat off gas either. So you get very, very hot, very sweaty in there, and that's why we stay hydrated. And when we're in the heat of the battle, you're not really thinking about your personal well-being or how hot it is. You're just thinking about getting the job done. After the fire is out, that's when we'll break down a little bit, open up our coats, maybe drop our coats, and just do the rest of the work without wearing all of that equipment. But it gets incredibly hot inside our firefighter turnouts. Is it common for firefighters to suffer from PTSD? I think it's common for everyone to suffer from PTSD. But obviously work in an emergency situation where you're called to try to make it better, and sometimes you can't, or maybe sometimes you do, but the toll that it takes on you, I believe it can cause PTSD. For whatever reason, one call may personally affect me in a way that it doesn't affect the rest of my crew, and other times something may affect another guy or gal that doesn't affect me. So there's just so much to it. I think life experiences, recognition, like maybe you have a newborn and you had to do CPR on a newborn. Well, it's really tough for the person with a new child, tough for all of us, but the person with a brand new child in their mind are just, seeing their own child in that infant. So I think that can stick with them. But do we suffer from PTSD? I believe we all do, just like all human beings do whenever we get involved in a tough situation. On a typical shift, how many 911 calls do you go to? It all varies. A lot of times it'll go with time of year during summertime when there's more people out on the streets and things going on. People doing fireworks on the 4th of July. It's just things happening. Well, we tend to go on more calls because more bad things happen when more people are out. There's a higher chance for an accident or heavens forbid, some sort of bad things going on. So to break it down, it could be anywhere from 6 calls on a relaxed shift to you can go upwards of 30 calls when you guys are really busy on a hot summer day. So again, it's hit or miss because I've had some shifts where I go to bed at midnight and I've woken up at 8 in the morning. I'm scared I missed a fire, but I didn't. We just had a slow shift, but that was so rare, especially in the firehouses that I worked at. I can count on one hand the amount of times I probably slept the whole night through as a firefighter. All right. What can we do to support firefighter families in our own communities? That's a difficult one because how do you know who's a firefighter's family? So I'm just going to kind of alter this question a little and say, how can we support our firefighters? Well, first off, your firefighters in your city, your men and women that signed up for the job, they didn't do it looking for gratitude and having you thank them. But I think like any job, it's cool to know that you have community support, especially when you're putting your family aside and taking on a job where at any moment you're going to lay your life down so others may live. And again, you're not looking for gratitude and kudos. And personally, I'm not someone that likes it. But you know what? Just a nice wave, or when people come up to us and ask us about what our job is like, or kids get to climb on the fire engine, you just see the smiles and stuff. I think it's just a common smile and a niceness that everyone likes. I mean, I haven't met a firefighter who doesn't appreciate a smile. And if you throw a thank you out there, well, that just makes your day that much better, even though we're not asking for thank yous. But I will throw it out there. I've also not met a firefighter who doesn't like ice cream. Just throwing it out there. All right, serious question here. You found God in your time as a firefighter. Did having faith impact your outlook as you went out and responded on calls? Even before I turned to Jesus and found my faith, I was still showing up and helping people. They always say, preach the gospel with your actions, throw in your words, right? Well, that's what the beauty is of the fire department. Regardless of a firefighter's faith, they're just showing up and trying to make something better. They don't judge, they just help. And that's the coolest thing about it. So obviously deep-rooted faith, if we really wanted to go there, prior to becoming a Christian, I was more doing things because it made me feel good, but I felt like I was called to do it. But after I found my faith, I started realizing it was God that had called me and given me all these abilities and gifts that I could bring to other people. So I guess the perspective would change. Instead of just doing it because I felt like I wanted to help people, I actually felt like I had a calling greater than me to help people. And in the end, as a Christian, I try to do all things to glorify God. So that's kind of how it impacted my outlook as a firefighter. Do firehouses really have fire poles, and do you actually use them? Yeah, We actually have fire poles, the 2-story houses, of course, or above. I can't speak for all firehouses around the nation, but I can speak for the city of Oakland from my time there, and any firehouse that was 2 stories above had fire poles, and they do save time, and we would use them. But I will give you a little something extra there. If you ever become a brand new firefighter, if you're upstairs taking a shower, make sure you're completely dry and completely clothed before you slide down that metal pole, because friction hurts, all right? All right, let's go down to another one here. When you're not on shift and see a fire engine drive by with sirens, is it hard not to follow them and help out? It's not hard at all, because when you're away from work and you see a fire engine going or an ambulance going, you know the professional responders with all the equipment are going to show up and handle business. Now, obviously, if we saw something that needed our attention prior to the fire engine or the ambulance or the police officers getting there, yeah, we were definitely hopping and helping. We're actually kind of called to help, because as first responders, we took an oath that on or off duty, we would help people. But again, when there are people already there or going, no, I've never had the urge to help out, because in Oakland, we had enough action during our days on that I was pretty content on my days off to relax and let someone else handle the call. What's your favorite memory from the firehouse? There's just too many lists, so I'm gonna break it down. Mealtime, especially dinner time. Lunch, we had lunch at noon, and we had dinner at 6. But what was really cool after dinner, we would sit around, and it was called family time, family hour. And we just converse, throw jokes, laugh, or if someone was struggling, you know, we would give our best Dr. Phil impersonation and try to make it better and counsel them. But honestly, around the table, there was just my favorite time, because there was so much that I learned there about so many other people. And it actually just parlays into life in general, that the beauty, my favorite time, any part of the day, is when I get to talk to other people, especially people I know nothing about, and I get to learn something about them, hear their struggles, hear their problems, or even hear their joys. That was my favorite time at the firehouse too. And it was family hour post-dinner. And don't get me wrong, we made some of the best dinners you could ever imagine, the Oakland Fire Department. What advice would you give to someone that is interested in becoming a firefighter? First, I would highly encourage guys and girls to apply for the fire department if you truly feel like you're called to serve. I want to make it very clear. If you don't feel like you've been called to serve, you don't feel like you've been called to lay your life down so others may live, that's okay. But don't ever join the fire department because it's a paycheck or a fun or exciting job. Don't get me wrong. There's a stability that comes with it. There's an excitement of fighting fire. We don't ever want to see someone's stuff burned down, but if it's going to happen, there is an excitement of being there and having a job that's full of action. But that's not your drive. Your drive should be make sure you have been called to serve. If you don't have a servant's heart and you're not willing to put yourself and your family aside to help others, I'll be honest with you, don't join the fire department. There's plenty of other great jobs that you can be just as productive and have a great life in. And the other thing I'll put out there, run as fast as you can and do as many push-ups as you can. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out in my little office here for a few minutes and getting an inside look at where I wrote the book and hanging out here at my desk.